Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into my podcast once again. I know that we've had some heavy subjects on this podcast in the last couple of episodes. And I'm going to keep the momentum going with that. I am not going to do, and I really don't so much do a lot of sugar coating type happy go lucky subject matters and things like that. I was never really that person that did that, but I do like to try to keep it light every now and then so that there's a variety of things. But you know what, the world is not light right now, the world is heavy right now. And sometimes you just need an outlet to be able to speak about it. Sometimes, it's just good to get your thoughts out about what is happening. And, you can go back to my latest couple of podcast episodes to, hear my commentary about things that are going on right now in the world. So I won't rehash those here. But what I wanted to say, we're in pretty much the middle of February right now. And, Black History Month. And I know I said that I was going to do an episode about Black History Month or, put that in that vein. I want to talk to my entrepreneurs, especially my Black and Latino entrepreneurs. This is an amazing time for us right now. And not that it isn't for any other entrepreneurs, but I'm speaking specifically to the African diaspora, anyone who falls underneath that during this Black History Month, um, the year of 2026, which is shocking that I'm even saying those words. 2026 it sounded so in the future many years ago, but here we are. But this is an incredible time for us to really reflect on where we are as a people, where we want to go, what we will tolerate, what we won't tolerate. I know that a lot of people are so used to doing business and they just want to get the money coming in. But this is such an important time for us right now. We have to be careful who we do business with. We have to be careful of wanting to constantly fit in and not rock the boat. That is something that we are constantly in fear of. I know that, most people have heard of code switching. That is something that most Black people, most Latino people, anyone who may not be even from this country, whether you're immigrants or whatever the case may be, you are constantly trying to acquiesce. Is acquiesce the right word? I'm not even sure. We're always trying to fit in to the mold, that corporate America has set out, because that's usually the standard, the 9 to 5 job standard. And we are constantly always trying to fit into that mold. We never want to rock the boat. It's very tough to speak up. Even sometimes if you want to speak up, they don't make it easy for you to speak up. And you speaking up on the job often gets labeled as aggressive. It gets labeled as a disruptor. It gets labeled as quote unquote being difficult. Uh, yeah, that's definitely something that I know a lot of the African diaspora has experienced on the job. Even if you are a woman on the job, no matter what background you come from, if you are in a culture of a job where most are men around you, there are plenty of women that have been through this as well. So I'm talking to not just my own people, that I am around and my people who I identify with because of my family, but I'm also speaking to anyone that has ever been marginalized in any way because of your background, because of your skin tone, because you are a woman, because you may be a part of the LGBTQ community, because you may be physically disabled, whatever pocket that you fit into as far as those things and all the other things that I may not have mentioned. Now is the most important time for you to be very selective about not just your circle, okay? Because I did talk about that in a previous episode, recent episode, talking about change your circle. But you have to be very particular about who you do business with, especially as a small business owner. Now is not the time to be separated and all over the place. All of you guys are trying to own property, but nobody can afford to buy property. Pool your money and your resources together and buy that one property and rehab that property and then flip that property and get the profits. Or rehab the property and then rent it out so that you can get the profits from it, so that you can build your own wealth. It never made sense to me, and this is, I'm speaking to the Black community right now. It never made sense to me, and anyone who is from the inner city, I'm a New York City kid. Anybody who's from, any inner city knows, especially in Black communities, there'll be like 5 churches within a block of each other. Okay? I never understood that. And not that there can't be 5 churches. I can understand if there was one Muslim temple. I can understand if there was one Jewish church or, whatever. No, it will be 5 Baptist church within one block. And we see it all the time. Why? And most of the churches are not large like mega churches or established churches. They're all very small. Why are you not pooling your resources together to make one house of worship? I'm just giving an example because this is something that I know actually exists because I used to live down the block from a situation such as this. And I could never understand it. All Baptist churches, I'm just giving the example of this because this is a real life example. And I said, well, if you go to the different churches, they're all talking about the same thing. You are in the same practice. It'll be very rare for you to see in America, especially I would say in the tri-state area, you're not going to see 5 Muslim temples on the same block. You're not going to see 5 Jewish places of worship on the same block. Not even Catholic churches. You're not going to see 5 Catholic churches on the same block. It just doesn't happen. But something about within the Black community, we are not coming together the way that we need to. And that has to change. I'm tired of people, I'm hearing all, different Black entrepreneurs or small business owners that they're trying to invest, especially going back to talking about property. And they're like, yeah, I got $10,000, but it's just not really enough. And really, I need like $30,000. But then I hear somebody else that's right next to you saying the same thing. And then the other person right across from you saying the same thing. But none of you are talking about pooling your assets together. What is happening? What's going on? Why we're not trusting each other? Why are we not doing business together the way that we need to? Now, I speak in 2 different situations because even though I'm a Black woman in this country and I was born here, I didn't grow up in a Black American household. I grew up in a Caribbean household because both of my parents, born and raised their entire lives until they came to this country, a few months before I was even born. They applied for their visa 5 years before I was even a thought. And it took years for it to come through. And by the time it came through, my mom was pregnant. She was like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to go anywhere because I'm like 5 months pregnant. What am I gonna do? They're probably gonna turn me down." She went to the office anyway and they said, "Well, where's your husband?" And she was like, "Oh, he's working in Kingston." Oh, well, get him to come here, and we have to sit down and do the interview. They did the interview with them, my mother separately, my father separately, and then together, and then now they're here. They did what they had to do. They went through all the channels and did what they had to do. They came here, they worked, they bought their home, they did all the things. They decided that, wow, it was a big decision for them to become citizens, a very, very big decision. They talked about it for quite some time, for a couple of years before they actually took the steps to do it, because it was very emotional for them. And that was maybe close to 30 years ago when they became citizens of this country. But they had a plan. They wanted to buy a home. They wanted to, all the things that they wanted to do. They accomplished a great amount of it. I'm sure they have their own personal goals, but as far as like family goals, owning a home outright, not having any mortgage and, all that sort of stuff, this was a goal of theirs. This was a big goal of theirs, and they did it. They wanted to be debt free. They did it. And that is an amazing thing because they came together and decided that this is what they were going to do. So when are the Black people, our community, going to get together? When are we going to get together and decide this is what we are going to do? This is how we are going to move forward. When is that going to happen? I'm trying to find out. Because I will tell you, I love working solo. I do. But it's a lot of work. And I would love to know that I have like backup. I would love to know that I have, a pool of people that you can pull from. But that is very hard to find because I find that when you do, nobody trusts each other. Nobody trusts anything. They question every single thing until things don't get done. And I'm not saying not to question things, but when you question things to the point that you keep stopping production, that's where the problems begin. If you have, I don't care what it is, content that you need to put out, a product that you need to put it out. There may be different versions. People write a book and they will write a second version because they've gone back and refined some things. And then, the book has another version of what they say additions, this edition has, what is it? An appendix at the end of the book, or something that was not in the first book. Get them ideas together and work together. Decide what it is that you want to do and work together. There is no shortage. I know we're going through food crises and all these different things, but y'all got money all the time for the new iPhones, though. Y'all got money to get your hair done, though. Y'all got money to get your nails done, though. Those are always done, no matter how brokey McBroke you might be. You find a way to do those other things. And if you're saying, well, I put that stuff on credit. Instead of putting those type of things on credit, put things on credit that are going to go through something for the future. Because if you can put $400 worth of nails and hair on credit, you could put $400 down on something that is going to help your business. You want to make t-shirts and you could buy a t-shirt press. You want to make signs and create signs. Well, you can buy the Cricut machine or whatever. I'm just throwing out ideas just off the top of my head. But you understand what I'm saying. If you've got $500 to do this or $400 to do that and this, that, and the other, whatever, then you have a good down payment for something that is going to generate you some type of income and keep helping you down the road. If you got $400 to put on a credit card, you can most certainly get yourself a website up and running. Because domains don't hardly cost nothing. And sometimes if you buy a website through some places, sometimes the domain is free. Because my website, I think my website is $40 a month. Like, come on, y'all. You want a professional email with a .com and not just at Gmail? I think my email system costs me $12 a month. It can be done. You don't even feel $12. You spend $12 on two lattes today. You spend $12 on your dinner that you about to grab right now on your way home from work. You spend on a fast food. Easy. I'm frustrated. I know y'all can hear it. I'm frustrated because I know that we can do better than what we're doing. I know that we can be so much better than the way that we are. And this is such a unique time to be doing that. We need to be mindful of our generational wealth and what we own. There is no reason why somebody who is within our community, owes, I don't know, $5,000 or whatever, or else they're going to lose, this or that. We used to have rent parties back in the day. Do y'all remember that? Back in like the late 70s, I was a little kid right at the door many times where people would have rent parties. And this was in the 70s and the 80s. I don't know how much they were done in the 90s. I don't remember too much in the 90s, but definitely the late 70s and into the early 80s, people used to have rent parties. And rent parties means that you had to pay to get into the party, and that money would go towards the person's rent. So if you get 50 people jamming in the party, everybody's trying to squeeze in the apartment, and they had to pay $5 to get in, all of that money was pooled together and given to the person for their rent if they were short or, they needed something, real quick or whatever the case may be. We used to really be a community. And I don't know where that changed. We used to truly be a community. And I'm not saying that there aren't people who are still about community, but it seems like it's so much more in the deficit than it is in the positive. We're not doing what we used to do. We're not our brother's keeper the way that we used to be. And it's kind of sad, it saddens me to think about. This is the time. When are we going to pull these resources together and be serious about it? Everybody really taking up the baton and going the next leg. Then you take it up and then you go the next leg and the next person and the next person. It really saddens me that we're not doing that the way we used to. Everybody is just for self. And yeah, selfish nature is always going to be there with a lot of things, but nobody is really caring for community. It's about greed. It is about self-gratification, self-glorification. It's sad. And how are we going to get ahead? There are so many major developments and things that are happening. As you can see, things in the news that are happening very rapidly. Laws are literally changing in front of our eyes with our eyes wide open. looking at it happening in front of us. And some of the things are mind-boggling. And we're just watching it happen. I said again, I said it in one of my recent podcasts, you got to change your circle. You got to change your mindset on who you vote for. These midterm elections coming in November, I cannot stress enough. If you want to see change, you have to show up. Not wait for everybody to spoon feed you the answers. That's not what this is about. You got to do work. So when you pull your resources together, and I pray that y'all do, you actually have to work. Don't pull the resources together just to get one person in the group to do all the work and then they get frustrated and exit stage left because everybody else is lazy. No, everybody needs to be accountable for their part. We need to start building up our generational wealth. We have to start owning property, because I'm going to tell you right now, this is not really a black white thing, a Latino versus everybody thing, or whatever. This is more the haves and the have-nots. Because as soon as you start hurting people in the pocket, they start paying attention. This is about the haves and the have-nots more than it is about DEI and all the other things like that. This is about who has power. And whoever doesn't have power, whoever doesn't have a say, whoever doesn't have a stake in the business, and I say a specific business, but a stake in, life. Do you own property? These are the sort of things that can make or break a community. When you don't own anything, if you're constantly renting, that could be problematic over time, because that means that you are at the mercy of whoever the renter is. And I see that all the time now. I'm hearing that from family members and friends, that their rent is going sky high, and friends that I've had that never owned before. They're in their 40s, early 50s, never owned anything, are now starting to buy homes because they're like, wait a minute. I'm putting out all this money for something that I don't own. I can't even change the wallpaper when I want to, or paint or whatever the case would be. And they can raise my rent like 20% and I don't have a say in it. Well, I might as well own my own home. So a lot of them are buying condos now, or they're buying townhomes and, whatever. They're purchasing homes because they're realizing the equity that would come with that. And it's not easy. It's not simple. As a homeowner, I can tell you, very hard, very tough. But it is a piece of that generational wealth that they can't take from you. It really is. It really is. And I know everybody's not meant to cut out to own things. And I get that. I understand that. I'm not saying it's something you have to do, but it is very good to do, because real estate is king out here in these streets. Trust me when I tell you. So I hope and pray all the time that we would get it together so that we can start to make moves. Because the landscape is looking very different right now. Very different. And going up to the midterms and whatever happens after the midterms is going to be, it's going to be a lot, and it's going to determine the movement of government and everything else. And we got to be prepared. We got to be prepared. All right, you guys, that's all I have for now. I just have to get my thoughts out on that, because I think that we're trying to get through things, and I know especially within the Black community, we tend to make light of a lot of things to get through hard things. But I think we gotta rein that in a little bit as well. Not that we still can't have fun, not that we can't still, you know, dance and have a good time and all of that. But there comes a time when we have to sit down at the table and do business. And that would be that time. All right, you guys, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.